I'm going to go ahead and create a new page here, and I'm going to start from visualizations, and I'm going to create a combo chart. Now with this combo chart, it's using the world countries data table, and so that has all the cases and deaths and recoveries on the world country level, on the country level here. And I'm going to make this a date in the x-axis, and I'm going to use this as a year, month, and day of month. So here we see all of the cumulative cases. Now I want to do this over the new cases, not just the cumulative cases. So I'll create a calculated column. I'm going to use this expression, and this takes the cases that are in each individual row, and it subtracts it from another value. This other value it's going to subtract it from is going to be the total cases intersected with the country in the previous date. And what that means is it's going to go ahead and group together all of the previous dates, and group it by country as well. So we have an intersection of previous dates and country, and then it's going to sum the cases over that. So the total cases per country over all the previous dates, and then subtract the current cases from that, and that will actually give me the new cases here. And let's go ahead and change this to new cases. So here we see the new cases per day across the world. This is for all the countries, and you can see all of these kind of ups and downs, these spikes. We've seen there's been a lot of reporting inconsistencies with how COVID cases are reported around the world. Some countries don't report as much on the weekend, so we see some dips there. Some are reporting in big batches, and so we want to do a moving average and kind of smooth this out. What I'm going to do is actually add the new cases again, but for my aggregation here, I'm going to choose the moving average pre-built aggregation. And now we see this here, this moving average. I'm going to go ahead and make this a line. Now we see here that this line is way above all of the other values, and that's because this aggregation was actually set to average. We want this to be a sum. So the total new cases per day, let's go ahead and make this a different color. We'll make this blue, we'll make this one red. So the way that this is working, this moving average, is it's actually looking at the x-axis here. I have this looking at whatever I have on the x-axis, and it's looking over an interval size that's 10 intervals. So right now I have this interval on days, individual days. If I move this down to, let's say, 7, that's going to be 7-day interval, okay? And that means this is a weekly moving average, this red line that's moving across. Now if I change my x-axis to then be instead months, then you'll see this kind of disappeared, and that's because there's not 7 months. So I can go here and I can change this down to, let's say, 3 or 2 months, a 2-month moving average, a 1-month moving average, which is just going to be the average along here. It's not really a moving average at that point. But the point is that this interval is based off of whatever you have on the x-axis. And we want to see this, I think this is most useful to see at the daily level. So how can we make this a little more dynamic for our users that are maybe using this on the web and can't change these configurations? I'm going to create a new calculated column that gives me a document property that I can move around. To do this, I first need to go ahead and create a document property. So I'll go to File, Document Properties, and I'm going to create a property that's just called n days, and that's going to be the number of days, and that is going to be an integer value. And I'll just create this as, let's say, a 5 as a default value. And next I want to add a calculated column. So go to Data, Add Calculated Column, and in this data table in world countries, I already have an expression that I've built here, which is going to be the average of the new cases, and that's going to be over the intersection of the country and then a number of days. So this is going to be over a few periods, and the way periods work is it's looking at the rows in your data table, and it's looking at each individual row as a period, and which row does it, or which column is that defined by? It's defined by date. So it's going to look at the last 7 days that are in the date column. Instead of making this fixed at 7, I want to use that document property. So this is parameterizable, this is adjustable. So I'll go into n days here, and I'll insert this property. So now this is going to be the last 5 days, because 5 is that value, and it's going to be over this date column. And I'll be able to change this in a second, which I'll show you, but for now let's just call this moving average. Now this is going over the 5-day moving average. That's a document property we had set. So let's go ahead and make this adjustable. I'm going to create a text area, and here I am going to edit this, and I'm going to create a property control, which is in this text, this little checkbox icon, and I'm going to just do a slider here. And I'm going to tie this to my end days document property. And I want this to go, I'll just leave this at 1 to 10 as a numerical range, and it'll increment by whole numbers. It'll increment by 1. And I'll save this. And now we have this slider. So this is 5 days. If I move this down to 3 days, you'll see that this green line has now changed. If I move it up to 7 days, it's going to be right on top of that red line, because those are both by 7 days. So now this is a way I can change this and see the moving average for however I'd like, and this is what someone in the consumer mode can use. So